convenient for them and they love it, but how can I reach more people that aren't able to make it? And how do I get their feedback to know that? Impact tracking and program evaluation is difficult with limited information, and donations after the event. So I mentioned our mobile food pantries. There are some of our nursery partners who don't shut down at the end of May. They sell all year round. And so sometimes I'll get a call in July with someone who's saying, I have a bunch of tomato plants, and I'm like, it's July. But to a certain extent, there are some people who could benefit from it. Maybe they will get a few cherry tomatoes before they have to pull them out in November. And so there are some times that I can go and pick those up and take them on a mobile food pantry. A lot of times I don't have time, so figuring out where to draw the line is sometimes a challenge. This is a graph of our impacts that we've had over the years. We really only formalized the tracking system in 2023. But really the only question I'm asking people as they come into this event is, how many people are in your family, right? So we're getting a count of individuals that we're serving that day and the impact that they are taking home to their families. I wish I would have put the actual numbers on here, but last year I think we served about 140 individuals, which was closer to like 140 families, which was closer to like 500 individuals. And then the Google Voice. We use Google Voice as a way to not only capture quantitative data, but also qualitative data. So not only how many people came to this event, but how many people were impacted and what were those impacts and how do they describe it in their words. So a Google Voice voicemail is set up and people can call into this number and leave a voicemail talking about their experience, and we offer them a chance to win a gift card if they do that. So we get a lot of good testimonials that way. It's all transcribed, and we can use those in our communications later on. Looking ahead, things that I would like to see change in the future, things that I would like to see improved upon. Collecting neighbor feedback and implementing those suggested changes, right? I have a social work background, so we talk a lot about evaluation and what's the point of evaluating if you're not going to implement anything. So would love to key that in a little more. Creating an easily recognizable brand that as soon as people see an image, they know what we're talking about. Working on that with our communications team, that's a goal of mine. And then doing satellite distributions in some of our rural counties. So not just me taking it to the mobile food pantries, but working with the pantries and the senior centers there to get them connected to their local nurseries and doing more distributions throughout our network. And then phasing in donations from home gardeners as well is something I would like to see done so that it's more of a plant swap and less of a plant distribution. We're working on small batch phasing in of that, but I would like to see that become more of a community feeling in that way. And this is the end of my portion of the presentation, so make sure you check out our handout. It should be available digitally, but also might be floating around some of these tables here perhaps. Okay, and thank you.
All right, so now here is Lynn Conyers with Interfaith Food Shuttle for program number 2.
Hey everybody. Hey, I've got one question for the group first. By show of hands, who doesn't want a smoothie cycle? Who doesn't? Right? Oh my God, I didn't know that existed. That's the best thing ever. So I'm Lynn Conyers. I'm with the Interfaith Food Shuttle Gardens for Everyone program. We're going to talk about that today from its origin to present day. Okay. So the Gardens for Everyone program was a program with a purpose. It started during and born and bred of the pandemic, and really came out of our mission statement to feed, teach, grow. right? To reduce a hunger by increasing access that couldn't be done during the pandemic. As I think in one of the other breakouts there, everything was shut down. Everything was shut down, right? There was just not anything out there for fresh produce from the normal places we could get it, and to increase food sovereignty and teach people as well as connect with communities through gardening. Here are some of our milestones, and basically a kind of an origin of it. It's been around since 2020. The pandemic is really, as I said, forced the need for this. That we have at that time we had two community gardens, one in Raleigh and one in Durham, and they were adopted by local residents. But during the pandemic, they couldn't get there. There was no access to those, so the leadership at Interfaith did what the leadership at Interfaith does, says, we have a problem, but more importantly, we got a solution to this. Rather than bringing the folks to the garden boxes, guess what? We're gonna take the garden boxes to the folks. So it began this program. The program struggled a bit from 2020 to 2022 because, as we all face, we had a great idea, we had a great product, we didn't have staffing. Right? We had one man, one pickup truck, and a whole lot of volunteers and interns. We built a few boxes, but it really changed. The game changer came for this program in 2022 when we received a grant funding from the Tepper Foundation. That grant funding was to build 100 boxes in 1 year. That funding started in October of 2022. I can tell you that by 2023, March, 6 months in, we built our 100th box. All right. So, cool thing was, Tepper said, oh my gosh, keep going. We'll keep funding it. We made a promise. We're gonna uphold that promise, keep building boxes. All right. 2023, with grant funding from Love, Tito's Foundation, helped us develop gave us the funding and the source of the inspiration to build an ADA box. We were typically building just one size 4x8 garden box. With Tito's involvement and Tito's desire is we created, developed, built an ADA box that now we could also produce as a product out there for us. In 2024, grant funding from Smithfield Foods created and facilitated our community partnership with Conita. And if you folks heard this morning, the pastor said, hey, this all started, they got 250 boxes. It started with 50 that we did. Gardens for Everyone program provided a community workshop for them with 50 boxes. 50 boxes of lumber, 50 boxes of everything needed, including the soil. And subsequently, we did another one, and then they have taken it and gone on with it. The standard G4E box is 4 foot by 8 foot, 20 inch high. Here's an example of it in a homeowner's yard. The reason for the design was the 20 inches was what we found was higher, clearly than most off the rack big box stores, right? They're usually 6 inches. I don't know about you, but I like sitting a lot more than I like bending. So that worked, but clearly was above ground. It was deep enough to grow anything from an herb to a potato, right? To carrots to any root veggies. The pest pressure was greatly minimized, right? Bunnies don't usually jump that high. Deer, it's fencing, right? But it also virtually eliminated weed pressure, right? From even small 6-inch boxes or 12-inch boxes, you're gonna get more weeds in than you are from a 20-inch box. 2 foot max is the average reach for an adult. So ideally, 2 foot wasn't enough growing space. So we give you access to all 4 sides. You've got great growing space. The other big deal was for us from a cost saving, right? We all want to do what we want to do, but we have those guidelines of how much money we have. We could buy an 8-foot board, cut it in half, we're there. But more importantly, we had a 9-foot pickup truck. Kind of worked, right? We didn't want lumber hanging off the back. We didn't want to do all of that stuff. So it was easy fit for us. And just as a fun fact, it fits 2 cubic yards of soil. An average cubic yard of soil weighs 1,000 pounds. So 1 box, 300 pounds of lumber, 1 ton of soil. The ADA box. This is a very cool deal. This was a great little project for us, actually. We were not building those when Tito's came to us. I think because they were involved in a grant to do some work at one of the community gardens, am I right, Charles? And so kind of sprung this idea. So being who we are, we just started playing around with some designs and started building. We built a couple iterations of it that a couple didn't work, a couple did. Learned a lot about ADA guidelines that we did not know before. And so came up with this model. A lot smaller, a whole lot less growing space, obviously. It's 2 foot by 4 foot and only about 6 inches deep. So can't grow everything you want to grow, but you can grow. And we found that was a great opportunity for us with folks with not a lot of space. A landlord that said, you know, you're not putting that big old box, not on my property, but folks with a deck, right? Small patio, very easy. Even some folks we've done with didn't need it for the ADA, but it was a great little herb garden sitting outside their door, right, on their patio or on their deck. The assets needed to do this was, and this really turned the tables from our Tepper grant, was the Tepper grant said 2 part-time employees, turned it into 2 full-time staff members, plus the support from our community gardens managers. It allowed us, the Tepper Foundation grant allowed us to buy a 6 cubic yard dump truck. Prior to this, every build was done, we could only build 1 box at a time. It literally went, the manager went every morning, that morning to build the box, got the truckload, 2 tons of soil in the truck, then went to Home Depot, bought the lumber, went back, cut the lumber on the tailgate of the truck, put it on top of the soil, took the wheelbarrows and put them on top of that, put the tools on top of that, strapped it all down. He was off and running. The dump truck allowed us to not do all of that. We just go to the soil yard and pick up the soil. It allowed us to build 3 boxes in a session rather than 1. It allowed us to carry everything else in the pickup truck. Our output changed tremendously. The speed of service changed tremendously. Same things we ever did. At that point, as I said, we even started in the early beginnings of it. We were buying lumber every day. I'd buy it in the morning, we'd cut it, we'd go do a build. That progressed into us actually partnering with the farm to bring all of that stuff out and do it ourselves. Old, new. You can see one person can unload a box. The build process, pretty simple and easy. We would come with all of our lumber. We build the box on site. At that point, then we fill it with the 2 cubic yards of soil. We leave them with seeds. We leave them with plant starts, if available through our greenhouse partners. We leave them with a seed to supper book. Is Sarah happen to be in the room? Yes, you're my hero. The seed to supper book is, if you haven't heard about it, find Sarah. It is one of the most amazing publications you'll ever find about being a gardener and growing. We level the ground, we fill it, we leave it. All right, turnkey, great product, great service. Here's a couple of pictures of our home gardens. This is 6 boxes in a yard, 1 box, and obviously one really happy gardener up there in the left. There's this great story from a neighbor. This young lady was retired, stayed employed, said she had never grown anything in her life. She could kill any plant she's ever planted, didn't matter. She was scared to death of this box. But seed to supper, we told her, you read the first chapter of that, and you've got a leg up on any gardener that you've ever met, right? She did. This was the crowning glory that she sent us. This literally is her box. And if you can't see that, as tomato with a tiara on it. She is so incredibly proud of that, and this was her testimony. For you data nerds out there, here you are, right? As I said, started in 2020 through 2021, not a whole lot of boxes, right? We came on board, the Temper Grant was in October of 22. You see where we started and see where we ended. The last 2 years, we changed the program in October of this year to a workshop-based program. But as you can see, our numbers with the added assets, the interest was out there. We built a bunch of boxes. Over 1,000 boxes system-wide. We service a 7-county area. And we've got about 2.5, 3 hours from tip to tip. Remember, this is a staff of 2. Plus volunteers. Here is a timeline. It's 2021. It's gonna get good here in a minute.
This is awesome.
This is the end of 2021, coming into 22. Right. Pretty much here, no workshops, no large community builds, just single, double boxes. $50 boxes, 50 boxes, 50 boxes, 30 boxes at one time. And you say, where's piling on? A lot of this was repeat business. Folks that had gotten 1 box, a year or 2 later said, I got this. I want another box. Okay, sure. How about 2? Okay. We came out. We built as many as 6 in a backyard, to as many as 30 in one location. While we're changing it, it really is this, in that obviously a big part of this was funding, right? As everybody is, we lost funding. So we had to make a decision. Interfaith Food Shuttle had to make a decision. This is important. This is teaching sustainability. This is feeding folks, but not like backpack buddies, not like grocery bags for seniors, right? So we had to make some hard decisions. But the decision we made was to transition into a workshop program. And that was from learnings that we had done for these 5 years, right? That we could build 10 boxes a week in homes. Or, right, a lot of work, a lot of preparation, where we could do a workshop that it would take us a week to plan for, to get ready for, with 50 boxes. We're now servicing 50 neighbors rather than 10. So it really was about servicing a larger amount of people, specifically, especially rural, where we weren't. And again, it was born and bred out of a lot of learnings from Pastor Joyner, in that he had a network. And like all of us is, we hooked up to a network, right? Because we're clearly, as Jessica said, I'm a smart guy, but if I'm the smartest guy in the room, we're in trouble, right? But I know that's not the case, that we have smart folks, right? And they're in that network. Connect with them. If you haven't, I've heard that all day. It's about connections, right? That's what's made us grow, helped us grow. So workshop really doesn't take a whole lot of time. It's about 3 weeks, but that's about where we were with a homeowner. If you put an application in today, it would be 3 weeks before we got your bill done anyway. Right. Everything pretty much remained the same. Here is a 30-box workshop we did. We're teaching them how to build it. In these workshops, we literally have them. We had kids as young as 12 to senior citizens out there. They got drills. They're drilling, they're building, they're putting together boxes. There was the end result. We started at 9 in the morning and we finished at 3, a little after 3. We built 30 boxes, built and filled 30 boxes from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. But we could only do it because of those folks. There's the community, right? This wasn't a G4E build, this was a community build. Absolutely, from start to finish, these folks are the reason that those boxes got built. So, just a couple of pictures from neighbors. Great story if you want to hear it, and for this picture with a young man standing in the middle. This is our French fry box. He grew French fries. Great story behind that. Here's our ADA boxes, and this is a project with the city of Raleigh. One of 2 or 3. This is a homestead group that has, since those 3 boxes, have added 6 more. This, again, this is Pastor Joyner on his property, us doing that workshop. That's it for me. Thank you guys so very much. I have one special guest here, Danielle Lynch. Danielle is a proud recipient of a couple of garden boxes as a neighbor, but also in her profession as a school teacher in 2 different schools. I'm going to give her an opportunity to talk a minute about her experience with it.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I really appreciate that Lynn and Charles and Interfaith let me come and talk today because, oh my gosh, I hope I don't get emotional, but like working with Interfaith has been tremendous. So I don't know who here is familiar with Wake County Public Schools, but we have traditional schools and then we have magnet schools, and maybe in other cities you all are familiar with magnet schools. So the first school that I started at in Wake County is Millbrook Environmental Connections Magnet Elementary School. So it is an environmentally focused magnet theme for kids in kindergarten through 5th grade. So what that means is a lot of the curriculum and a lot of the elective courses that are open to all students are environmentally focused. Everything from, we have a course called Farm to Table, which is really like written and inspired by some of the work that we did with Interfaith, to learning all about pollinators and everything in between for the youngest kids to the oldest kids. So we had some gardens in place. We had some in-ground gardens with horrible clay soil that the kids couldn't dig through, and we were doing our best. And then we got connected with Interfaith and met Lynn, and through the Gardens for Everyone program, they came out with a team of volunteers and they built us 5 like beautiful raised beds. And just like the excitement on that Monday after the build, when the kids like saw all of these beds filled with soil, all the little plant starts that we were gifted, just really opened their eyes to the possibilities that they can grow their own food and learning the process. And not just that, but they grow their own food, and then what? Then they harvest the food, then they learn how to save seed, and then they start the whole thing over. And it was just, without the Gardens for Everyone program, a lot of that would have never happened. Who wrote the book, The Seed?
It was a combo.
Okay, I wanted to give you praise because when they came out and they built these beds, it wasn't just, okay, here's a box of dirt, like best of luck. Lynn was always available. He would like bring us bags of soil. He would like replenish plants. If, gave us plant starts in the spring. In the fall, they would bring us different plant starts. It opened the students' eyes to different types of produce. 2 things that like really stick out because of that book. Not only was I able to educate myself, but I was able to educate other teachers at the school so they could educate their students in these elective courses, and it was just a wealth of knowledge. So it's more than just making these beds and then saying, best of luck, I hope you know how to garden. It was working with us so we could teach others and instill that in the students. Our Farm to Table class was able to do like the 3 Sisters gardens. So just like thinking of all the aspects of how you can teach kids how to garden and have it stick with them for a lifetime, bringing like historical tie-ins to that. And the other one was we planted sweet potatoes. Interfaith would give us slips every June. So on the last day of school, we would take like the 5th graders all out. They would all plant some sweet potato slips. They looked like they were about to keel over and die. And then we, over the summer, we had a community sign up. Families would sign up to care for the gardens. The gardens were open to the community, so families could come harvest all summer long. And they did. And in the fall, the kids would harvest the sweet potatoes, cure the sweet potatoes, learn about the process, and then everyone took a sweet potato home. Like all the 5th graders were able to take 1 sweet potato home for Thanksgiving. And it was just like, it's more than just the gardening. It's more than, oh, at school I planted a potato. It's filling that gap where food insecurities exist, and where Millbrook is located, the kids face food insecurities. So it's really powerful what Interfaith was able to do with those students. So then I decided I love the environmental job, but I wanted